So one of the purposes of this project is to get an idea of the personal experience of being a part of Virginia Legal Aid. So if you don't mind, I might ask you a few questions just digging into your experience
Sure.
as an attorney with Virginia Legal Aid and a manager at that. But one of the things that is so important anywhere is the idea of having a mentor, people to look up to and help you get through what for you sounds like a very accomplished career. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about who has left an impression on you and what you've learned from them.
Yes, but let me go back a little earlier than that, because the reason I think, Jonathan, that I am in legal aid now is my happenstance exposure in law school to a fellow named Ed Sperrer, who was at the time involved with the Columbia School of Social Work and was evolving a program of legal advocacy around public welfare issues. And Professor Sperrer had just a wonderful way of looking at the system of social welfare as it had existed for hundreds of years and relating the present structure of it to the way it had developed and pointing to all its vulnerabilities and burdens upon the people it was supposed to assist. And I thought that was so much the most interesting thing that I did in law school. That I think it was a good part of my inspiration for being interested in legal services when the time came. Within the legal services community here in Virginia, certainly there have been some people that have kept me very interested. I followed very closely in my coming to this program John Levy's departure. He was an early Reggie Fellow in this program before he went to Richmond to participate in the founding and direction of the Richmond Legal Aid program. And he had just done so much wonderful work and was such a wonderful person that you couldn't help but think this is the sort of lawyer you want to be. He, I think, was the first Virginia legal aid lawyer to get a case to the Supreme Court as well, the United States Supreme Court. He did that out of this program and did some really interesting litigation, largely again in the public benefits area for that period of time. But it was just a good example, I think, of what we as legal aid lawyers would like to be. That is, people who understood the folks they were trying to help and could do it with sufficient perspective and skill to really make a change. There are a lot of people who have that level of experience now in legal services. I think it's changed from being a 3 years and you're done operation to being a real career for a lot of people. And a lot of those people have been extraordinarily successful and skillful. And I think we all owe a lot of gratitude to the people who have stuck with it for a long period of time and developed the system of legal aid in Virginia as it is now.
That actually touches on one of the other questions, which was talking about the typical, which I know is a dangerous word, but the typical legal aid lawyer from the time you started to present day. I'm getting the sense that these lawyers are sticking around longer. And do you have anything to say about the passion level?
You know, I think that's come and gone. I think that it's hard to generalize because people do come at it differently, and there certainly are a lot of people still who apply for a legal aid job because they think it might be interesting for a while, but they really don't even imagine a career interest in it. And there's there is a place for people who are just sort of serving their time and doing it well and being journeymen, because they will eventually end up in the private bar and may be good pro bono lawyers or sympathetic allies in the General Assembly. But I think that what we're always looking for is people whose interest is at such a level that if if given the right atmosphere to practice in and the right guidance in developing their careers, that they will stick with it. It has enough interest, certainly, to be a lifetime commitment if you're given the opportunity to practice it well. And I think that what we have now is a much more advanced level of management of resources than we used to have, which makes it possible for new lawyers to do more. They get a little better training. They get a lot better backup from places like the Poverty Law Center, and they have the potential for staying in if they find it interesting that they didn't used to have. So I think that there's some respects in which it's being a better managed system of programs than it used to be. It also makes it a better place to work.
So, going off that, do you see healthy long-term viability for legal aid in Virginia?
That depends so much on the money, doesn't it? I think it just depends on whether there continues to be support. I could imagine an environment in which the politics were so bad that it was shut down altogether, and I'd hate to think about that. But I think we are always vulnerable to those who think we're just not. We're an impediment to their doing what they want to do. And I think that we're in a time of real political crisis in this country about who's calling the shots, and it's not Republicans and Democrats. It's about the super rich and the rest of us, and it's hard to tell where that's going to come out in terms of the political will to continue serious public funding for legal services. There'll always be a need, certainly, and I think there'll always be some funding of a private and incidental sort, but it really must have public funding to be viable, and you never know from day to day.
That's brilliant. And before we finish up, so this is sort of the in the movies, the speak now or forever hold your peace moment. I mean, of course, you'll be having more conversations about your experiences as a legal aid lawyer, but for our benefit, is there anything that you can think of that experiences you've had or that you haven't mentioned earlier, but any last bit of information that would benefit us, the viewers? No. Well,
sorry about that.
Well,
I'd like to have a great wrap-up shot, but I just got I don't have it. Don't have it ready.
Brilliant. That was fantastic.